the small town of Comendador Venancio, a quiet district tucked away in the countryside of Rio de Janeiro's northwest region, far from the coastal glamour most Americans associate with Brazil, was home to a family that, in the eyes of their neighbors, lived an ordinary and orderly life. There, 45-year-old nurse Antonio Carlos Tuxera and 37-year-old hairdresser Anela Tuxera were raising their two children, a 14-year-old boy and their youngest, little Antonio Filho, just 3 years old. They seem to embody what Brazilians call a butter commercial family, the picture-perfect household. But behind this facade of normalcy, a silent and deeply digital crisis was beginning to erode their family's foundations. Before we continue, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? What city, state, or region? I'd love to understand how these South American cases are perceived from the outside. The individuals involved in this horrific murder case are under 18 years old. Under Brazilian law, their real names and faces cannot be disclosed by the media or in any news outlet. In this video, they will be referred to simply as the boy and the girl. The eldest son, a bright, articulate teenager who, according to the lead investigator, Dr. Carlos Augusto Guimarães, displayed a deep emotional detachment, spent countless hours immersed in a virtual world. It was through the glow of his computer screen, often from the comfort of his bedroom, that he connected with the outside world and, most importantly, with a 15-year-old girl who lived 1,800 kilometers away in the city of Água Boa, Mato Grosso. Their bond went way back, 6 years of shared adventures in online games, a friendship that had begun when the boy was only 8 years old. But over the past 12 months, that friendship had evolved into something else, an online romance, a serious relationship sustained entirely through internet messages and voice notes. To his parents, Antonio and Anela, this virtual relationship and the idea of their son traveling all the way from Itaperuna to Mato Grosso was completely unacceptable. They had strictly forbidden both the communication and especially the trip he was planning to meet his girlfriend in person. That prohibition, seen by the teenagers as the greatest obstacle standing between them and their forbidden love, became the spark that would ignite a tragedy. According to police reports, the girl from Mato Grosso held a strong emotional influence over the boy. Their exchanged messages revealed that she pressured him, resorting to emotional blackmail and even issuing an ultimatum. Either he took action to see her in person, proving he was a man, or their relationship would be over. The boy, in turn, would later confess to police that he would do anything she told him to. This toxic online relationship, which had come to replace the affection missing within his own family, a kind of emotional and moral detachment that Detective Guimarães would later highlight as a warning to all Brazilian parents, was fueled by a shared morbid fascination. Far from being just casual gamers, the teenage couple harbored a disturbing obsession with digital content that glorified violence and family crimes. The boy, for instance, used a fake social media profile under the name John Wick, the infamous hitman from the American film series starring Keanu Reeves. On another platform, he paid tribute to Kevin, the character from We Need to Talk About Kevin, known for committing a school massacre. But the most chilling detail, the one that stirred the strongest public outrage, was their obsession with the psychological horror game The Coffin of Andy and Laylee. The plot of the game was shocking. It told the story of two siblings entangled in an incestuous relationship who murdered their own parents and engaged in cannibalism. The teenagers from Itaperuna and Água Boa weren't just fans. They referred to the boys' parents as if they were characters from that very game. In their cold, calculated exchanges, they meticulously planned the murders. The conversations, later uncovered by police on seized electronic devices, openly discussed which weapon to use. They considered a knife before settling on the father's revolver, the use of gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints, and various strategies for disposing of the bodies. Their planning extended far beyond the killings. It was about what life would look like afterward. Alongside their obsession with being together, there was also a tangible motive: greed. The boy's father, Antonio Carlos, had around 33,000 reals in his FGTS account, the Fundo de Garantia do Tempo de Serviço, a type of mandatory savings fund for Brazilian workers that can only be accessed under specific circumstances, such as dismissal or death. After the murders, the teenager even searched online for how to withdraw FGTS from a deceased person, a chilling detail the police later found in his phone history. The macabre conversations went even further. The couple discussed selling the family's house and car, and in a grotesque moment of improvisation, they even joked about how to get rid of the botas, debating whether to cut them up, burn them, or feed them to pigs. None of those extreme ideas were actually carried out. but they revealed how fully the pair had dehumanized their victims, treating human life like obstacles in a violent video game. Eager to please his girlfriend and lock in their escape plan, the boy suggested that after he reached Mato Grosso, she should kill her own mother as well. They talked about killing anyone who stood in the way of their dream, and at one point even considered murdering the boy's paternal grandmother, the very woman who would later report the family missing. Ironically, that plan was abandoned for fear it would attract too much suspicion. Although the girlfriend had hinted in messages that the youngest sibling, just 3 years old, should be spared, the boy decided the child would also be killed when the time came. It was a hot Saturday night in the countryside of Rio de Janeiro, and the Tuxera family had retreated to the only room in the house with air conditioning. Antonio, Inela, and little Antonio Filho were all asleep together in the same bed, while the 14-year-old boy lay on a mattress on the floor of the same room. That detail, ordinary for many Brazilian families on hot nights, set the stage for the intimate, confined scene of the impending horror. The teenager waited. To fight off drowsiness and make sure he stayed alert for what he was about to do, he took a pre-workout supplement, an energy booster often used by athletes. Adrenaline and chemicals surged through his body, clashing with the stillness of the night. He crawled toward where his father slept. Antonio Carlos, a registered collector, sport shooter, and hunter, a classification known in Brazil as CAC, which grants legal possession of firearms such as revolvers and carbines, kept his gun, a revolver, under the mattress. The boy reached for the family weapon. At that critical moment, his girlfriend was online, watching everything unfold in real time. Detective Guimarães would later describe it as a crime reality show. The first shot rang out, muffled perhaps by pillows, or maybe by the deep sleep of the parents who, according to the boy, had taken sleeping pills. He shot his father in the head. Immediately, the virtual line between them buzzed. The boy sent his girlfriend a voice message. "I killed my dad." Her reply, cold and commanding, confirmed her active role in the crime. "Shoot her now," she said, referring to his mother. The second shot, Inela Tuxera, was hit in the head. Later, the boy's paternal grandmother would claim that her grandson confessed his mother was still alive when he threw her into the cistern, although the detective later stated that forensic reports showed she died instantly from gunshot wounds to the skull. The grandmother's account captured the horror and uncertainty of that moment, planting the chilling possibility of additional suffering. The sequence of deaths came to an end when the youngest brother, 3-year-old Antonio Filho, woke up amid the noise and panic, acting under a twisted sense of mercy. The 14-year-old said he shot his little brother in the neck to spare him from growing up without their parents. Blood soaked the mattress. The boy then sent his girlfriend photos of the bodies. Her reaction was a disturbing mix of disgust and pride. She said she was grossed out by the images, but followed with a chilling statement that laid bare the tragedy's true motive. "I never thought anyone would do something like this for me." In the early hours of Sunday, June 22nd, the boy spent the night in a desperate and clumsy attempt to erase the traces of the crime. He tried to clean the house using chemical products. The blood-stained mattress was flipped upside down to hide the evidence, a detail that would later fool no one. The immediate challenge was disposing of the bodies. They had previously discussed burning them, cutting them into pieces, or feeding them to pigs, but the boy resorted to improvisation. He chose the cisterna, water reservoir commonly found in Brazilian homes, used to store rainwater or water from the public supply. The cistern was located inside the house, in the kitchen and service area. The boy dragged the 3 bodies. According to the detective, he used a chemical liquid to help the bodies slide across the floor, through the yard, and finally into the reservoir. Once the bodies were hidden, silence returned to the house. The boy didn't sleep right away, likely due to the tension and the effects of the pre-workout supplement. Soon, the foul odor of decomposition began to spread through the house, making his attempt at concealment short-lived. Throughout Sunday and Monday, the boy continued exchanging affectionate messages with his girlfriend, acting as though nothing had happened. He also made a search that confirmed his second motive, how to withdraw a deceased person's FGTS. He was, in fact, organizing the financial life that his parents' deaths would bring him. To cover up their sudden disappearance, he came up with a false story. His little brother had supposedly choked on a piece of glass, and their parents had rushed him to the hospital, never to return. By the afternoon of Tuesday, June 24, 2025, the boy's act began to crumble. His paternal grandmother, Regina Tuxera, increasingly worried by the family's silence, accompanied him to the Itaperuna police station to file a missing persons report. The teenager appeared calm and composed. answering questions articulately and showing no trace of remorse or emotion, cold without remorse in the words of Detective Guimarães. The boy was intelligent. He was taking English classes and even used technical terms from forensic medicine in conversation. His coldness stunned the seasoned investigators. Detective Guimarães immediately dispatched teams to hospitals in the region, but there were no records of an Antonio Filho being admitted. Noticing the initial inconsistencies in the story after all. What kind of family vanishes for 3 days, leaving their car in the garage after a supposed medical emergency? The police ordered a forensic inspection of the house on the morning of Wednesday, June 25th. Upon entering the house, the officers and forensic experts encountered a scene of shoddy cleaning. Using luminol, they revealed bloodstains on the overturned mattress. The lack of care in concealing the crime scene was evident. It was then that, inside a packed travel bag, the police found a crucial item: the victim's cell phones. The foul odor lingering in the laundry kitchen area, the cistern was about 5 to 6 meters from the bedroom, confirmed the worst. Once the bodies were discovered inside the cistern, the boy, who was in the house with a maternal uncle, realized that the plan had collapsed. The 14-year-old admitted to the triple homicide and the concealment of the bodies. In his statement, the teenager was brutally honest. When asked about remorse, he was unequivocal. He said he did not regret it and that he would do it all over again. The detective noted signs of psychopathy in his cold, spontaneous recounting of the details. Although a formal psychopathy diagnosis can only be made after reaching the age of criminal responsibility in Brazil. Following the boy's confession, the investigation quickly turned to his virtual girlfriend, whom he had initially tried to protect. The Itaperuna Civil Police, working with the Mato Grosso Police, tracked down the 15-year-old girl in Agua Boa. The teenager was apprehended. In a detail that underscored the bizarre duality of her character, she gave her statement while holding a stuffed teddy bear. Her mother, in denial, defended her daughter, describing her as an exemplary girl and good student. Analysis of the girl's computer and the seized cell phones revealed the depth of her involvement, dismantling any claims of innocence. The messages proved her active participation, the premeditation, the real-time guidance, the order to shoot the mother, and the emotional manipulation, using forbidden love as a weapon to instigate the crime. The devices contained all of the planning. The macabre themes from the game, the coffin of Andy and Laylee, and the girl's explicit acknowledgement that he had done the unthinkable for her. The 14-year-old boy and his 15-year-old online girlfriend would be held accountable for acts equivalent to triple homicide and concealment of bodies. The case was immediately forwarded to the Public Prosecutor's Office, MP, the agency that acts as public prosecutor in Brazil. On June 26th, the MP requested the boy's detention in a juvenile facility. For you, our listeners, accustomed to a system where serious crimes committed by minors can, in many states, result in trial as adults or very long juvenile sentences. The legal fate of these Brazilian teenagers requires some deep context. Brazil operates under the Child and Adolescent Statute, ECA, enacted in 1990. The ECA is based on the doctrine of comprehensive protection, which considers children up to age 12 and adolescents between 12 and 18 as subjects of rights and individuals in a unique stage of development. Under the ECA and the National System of Socioeducational Services, anyone under 18 is absolutely exempt from criminal liability, meaning they don't commit crimes, but rather infractions, the juvenile equivalent of a crime. They don't receive prison sentences, but instead socioeducational measures. The most severe measure is internment confinement in a socioeducational facility, comparable to a juvenile detention center, like Fundaca Casa in the state of São Paulo, though the Itaperuna case is in Rio de Janeiro. Internment is subject to the principles of brevity, short duration, exceptionality used only as a last resort, and respect for their condition as developing individuals. The point of conflict: Brazilian law establishes that internment, even for infractions equivalent to triple aggravated homicide, has a maximum period of 3 years. The measure must be re-evaluated every 6 months. The adolescent is mandatorily released at age 21 at the latest, regardless of the severity of the act. The teenagers were placed in provisional internment. The boy was taken to the Socioeducational Center in São Fidélis, Rio de Janeiro. And the girl, under the principle of family proximity provided for in the ICA, was interned in Mato Grosso, the Itaperuna case, parricide, the killing of parents by their children. A rare crime with motives the media would classify as trivial, forbidden online love and money, ignited debate about juvenile justice in Brazil. Detective Guimaraes publicly lamented the disparity in the law. He noted that the possibility of the young man walking free at 17 and starting his life over, without having served a sentence proportional to triple homicide, is frustrating for law enforcement and outrageous to society. He stated that Congress needs to seriously discuss increasing the sanction time for heinous crimes committed by adolescents. Since lowering the age of criminal responsibility, trying adolescents as adults is considered an entrenched clause in the Constitution, meaning it's extremely difficult to change. In fact, by October 2025, a bill placed 1-473-2025 had already been approved in a Senate committee to double the maximum internment time from 3 to 5 years, and up to 10 years in cases of violence or heinous crimes. Such proposals seek to correct what many, including members of law enforcement, see as a historical weakness of the ECO, the lack of proportional response for the most barbaric crimes, like the one in Itaperuna. Beyond punishment, sociologist Lucia Pasquinelli analyzed the young people's behavior. She argued that the case was a warning sign about the lack of family connection and excessive screen time. She emphasized that while psychopathy cannot be diagnosed in adolescence, the absence of parental bonding is clear. The girl's mother didn't know what her daughter was doing online, and the boy had no connection with his parents, only hatred and frustration, channeled through digital encouragement. The future of the couple, who never actually met in person, is uncertain. The detective noted that historically, couples who commit crimes together rarely remain united after incarceration. The loneliness and stigma of having killed their parents and his younger brother will likely be the most agonizing punishment for both of them. The boy's paternal family was already devastated, while the young girlfriend's mother faced the harsh reality that her exemplary girl wanted her dead. The boy's coldness in confessing without remorse, saying he would do it all again, and the online girlfriend's active participation highlighted the dark power of unsupervised digital life. They were, in the detective's words, souls that came already too corrupted, but whose violence was catalyzed by an environment where parents who outsourced raising their children didn't monitor what was happening in the bedroom, thinking their child was safe. The Itaperuna crime thus became a tragic parable of modernity, where the virtual trigger found ammunition at home and the ending was written in real time under the morbid rules of a game.